There's a lot of reasons that you may want to speed up or slow down your video. You may need to fit something into a certain space and you don't have enough media or you have too much. Or you may want to do it stylistically to give that slow motion effect to draw out and allow the viewer to see more of what's happening. Conversely, if the viewer isn't going to be patient to watch things in real time, a lot of times you'll speed things up, almost doing a time lapse. Now, Premiere Pro is excellent at modifying speed, and there are many ways to slow down and speed up and even reverse a clip depending on the environment you're in and exactly what you need to do. One of the most popular ones is fit-to-fill. And this is a situation where you might have less media than you have time in your timeline. So in this case, I've already marked an in and an out point, and I can see that this in and out point, if I look over here to the right side of the screen, is almost 7 seconds long. And let's go ahead and play it and hear what Vanessa is saying, and then we're going to open up a piece of video and place it in, but it's not going to be long enough to do what we need to do.
So I have a very simple recipe.
Okay.
We're going to start with some tapioca flour, which is a really wonderful textured gluten-free flour. It makes this really great crust.
So she's talking about using the tapioca flour, and we're going to cut to a close-up. And I could take the entire close-up. So there's a clip labeled flour. I'm going to double-click to load this into the viewer. I've already marked an in and an out point for its duration. If we go ahead and we play this.
Flour. It makes this really great.
So what's happening here is I want the viewer to be able to see a close-up of the flour, and after about 2 seconds, I start moving it around and shaking it, and her hand comes into the shot. So instead of putting in a freeze frame, I'm just going to put the clip in and slow it down. So you'll notice that I've marked an in point and an out point in my source, and I have an in point and an out point in my destination. And the source's duration is only 2 seconds, where my target duration is almost 7 seconds. So something has to give, and what gives is slowing it down. Now, the beauty is I don't have to know any math to do this. I can simply select the clip and do an overwrite edit. Now, be careful here because I want to replace the video but leave the existing voiceover, and that comes over here to the track targeting. I can just turn off the target there, make sure that it's an inactive track, so the only thing that should be affected is my targeted video layer. Now I can simply request an overwrite edit because I want to replace the video. I don't want to do an insert edit. And I'm presented with a dialog box. Now, there are 5 options here. 2 of them are grayed out. And we're ultimately going to use the top one. But the reason 2 and 3 are grayed out is because I can't throw away the in or the out point of the source because it's shorter. It's only 2 seconds long than my target destination. Now, if I wanted to, and I didn't want to change the speed, I could say, oh, you know something? Ignore the out point, ignore the in point, and we're just going to end up putting in a 2-second clip, and we'll have this huge gap still for the other 4 seconds. So I'm going to select Change Clip Speed, and this is called the Fit to Fill, and when I press OK, take a look at what happens on video track 1. The clip gets placed in. It was a 2-second clip, and if I didn't do a fit to fill, there'd be a huge gap here. And because I turned off this targeting track, we still hear Vanessa's voice. But let's take a closer look at what happened to the video.
Difficult. So I have a very simple recipe.
Okay.
We're going to start with some tapioca flour, which is a really wonderful textured gluten-free flour. It makes this really great crust.
So I get to see it. I get to see it in detail. The viewer knows that I've slowed it down. As a matter of fact, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and select this area and hit the plus key to zoom in, and I can see precisely how much I needed to slow it down to fill that space. Now, one thing I often do when I slow a clip down on Fit to Fill, sometimes I need to tweak it so I see the best in and out point. And this is another perfect example where you would be using the slip edit tool that we learned about in an earlier video. So if I wanted to refine exactly where it was when we saw this clip and where the out point was, maybe I wanted a little less shaking of the clip, I could switch over to the tool by going over here and choosing the slip tool or Y, Or I could even go back to the source monitor with the in and out and just slide it back and forth that way. So I have a couple of choices here. I'm going to go down here and use the Y key, select it, and as you can see, I can choose the out point, and I'm just moving it before I start shaking it. That's a lot nicer. I let go. The speed has not changed, but the timing is much better. Okay.
We're going to start with some tapioca flour, which is a really wonderful textured gluten-free flour. It makes this really great crust.
So that worked much better for me. It was a little less shaky. And ultimately, when I render this, it's going to be a lot cleaner and a lot more fluid on that slow motion. I'll just make one more aside when talking about speed changes, and that is, as excellent as Premiere is in slowing things down, if you slow something down dramatically, and I'm saying maybe like 8 or 10% of its original length, you may want to step into After Effects with that footage, and that has a more powerful engine and algorithm to slow things down. It will take a lot longer to render because it's actually going to be creating new pixels to get the job done. The Fit-to-Fill editor is a resource that I use all the time in my toolbox. Often when cutting news, I often will have a 10-second soundbite, yet 2 minutes of footage of the guy leaving, say, the courthouse, and Fit-to-Fill will automatically slow it down and make sure that I have enough video footage to cover my audio soundbite.